The next war is already here. The war of ideas fought in our soil, over our resources, and over the direction of Africa.
This is where my brain is going ding, 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 ding. Our soil, our resources. You see, I said it once in a video that we are going to get to a point where if we let ourselves blur these lines of who is African and who can be African, right? We are eventually going to get to a point where we are going to now have to be dragging things with people that are supposed to be asking our permission first of all as to whether or not they can or should be allowed in certain spaces. Because you see now, just now we don't the year our for our koro like this now we don't the year our resources, our soil. So today's video, this white South African TikTok creator believes that the Afrikaans future is with African unity. I want us to talk about it, so let's get into it.
Yes, I am white. Yes, I have green eyes. But no, I'm not European. I'm African.
From the very beginning, problems already. That's not how it works. To be African, we're talking about ancestry. Your ancestry is not from here, it's from Europe. You are European living in Africa. You are a descendant of colonizers living in Africa. That's what you are. And to be fair, this creator in particular is not even a problematic one, right? I just want to say that off the, at the beginning of this video. He seems to mean well. I've come by a couple of his videos. He does come across like he actually cares, love Africa and love Africans, but, time will tell. That's all I would say on that. But to what he just said right now, no, you are not African. Let's call a spade a spade. You are European and you would always be European. And that's okay.
And to every white South African, especially Afrikaners, stop clinging to the West. The future hasn't been there in over 400 years. And those Afrikaners who fled in 49 thinking they'd escape Africa, they died the day they left. Their children aren't Afrikaans, they're American. Their culture buried, their identity lost.
And something else that's interesting here is, when I see Afrikaners talking about Afrikaans as if they did not steal that identity, I always find it interesting. I think I actually made a video where I shared this before. So if you want to learn more about that, the video is in the comment section or in the description rather.
You do not preserve a culture by running. You preserve a culture by evolving. If you really care about being Afrikaans, about your blood, about your identity, about your children, then your future is in African unity. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to become part of Africa's direction or you will be wiped out by history. Just like any settler who thought they could live on borrowed time.
And another thing you want to peep here is the fact that for the ones that are actually intelligent, they have come to realize that in order for their self-preservation, it would be best for them to align with Africa. Not only because of the fact that when it comes to the future of our planet, that is tied to Africa because of what Africa has to offer as regards to resources and all of this stuff, right? So in that sense, you see a whole lot of them right now wanting to talk about, the smart ones at least, wanting to talk about how, this is our home, this is our home, this is our home, let's stay back, let's do this, let's do this here. For some, not necessarily because they actually care about Africa or love Africa or Africans, or because they want to be truly one with us and actually come together and work together, but because they want to have a stake in our resources in the future. That's why their ancestors came here, because of our resources. And that's why some of them still want to stay back because of same resources. So I'm not surprised that he's giving that advice, saying that Africa is the future. Africa is your future. This is where you should be at. Because not only is it the future in the sense of resources and how all of that can help us get ourselves to the future, but it is also the future in the sense that when you are here, you can keep your bloodline alive, if you get what I mean. Because let's not be mistaken here, we have seen and heard of the news of their birth rates declining. Their population is dwindling, and it seems like extinction is knocking on their doors because the birth rates keep going down and down and down and down and down. And for those who remember the video I made, was it 2-3 years ago, where we saw what's this lady's name, or Jane Elliott, talking about how a time will come where the younger generations are going to realize that they would have to pair up with black people to keep their bloodline going, right? And we saw in that video one young lady talking about how she prefers black men because she knows that her genes, her white genes, cannot survive, and she needs to basically lash onto black men so she can keep her genes alive in her kids with a black man, right? I'm going to also link that video as well in the description for those who want to check it out. Very interesting video, very eye-opening video. So I think that also, maybe I'm reaching here, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but the way my brain is interpreting what I'm hearing right now, that's what I'm thinking about right now. While this creator may not be thinking about the biological aspects of things, because I don't know exactly what he's thinking in his head, right? But broadening the conversation, that's something to think about. That's something they are thinking about. Not many of them would want to come out and tell us about it, but it is a thing.
Pan-Africanism isn't just for black people. It's to anyone committed to the land, the people, and the future of Africa. The next war is already here. The war of ideas, fought in our soil, over our resources, and over the direction of Africa. It's time to stop being settlers and start being African.
Now, this is where my brain is going, ding, 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 ding. Our soil, our resources. You see, I said it once in a video that one big problem, now this is me paraphrasing because I can't remember exactly how I said it in a video, but this is the point I had raised in one video. And I said in that video that we are going to get to a point where if we let ourselves blur these lines of who is African and who can be African, right? We are eventually going to get to a point where we are going to now have to be dragging things with people that are supposed to be asking our permission, first of all, as to whether or not they can or should be allowed in certain spaces. Because you see now, just now without the year hour, for our koro like this now without the year hour, our resources, our soil. As an African, no. This is how it will start like a joke. It's all fun and games now until one day, if we are not careful as African people, we are going to wake up and find out that they have stolen the identity and will be left identity-less. They're going to do with the African identity what they did with the Africana identity. Because we know the history has shown us multiple times that when these people come in, they don't come into spaces to share with anybody. No, they come to dominate, they come to take over, they come to conquer. Right? This is why when I see some of my people who are just like, it's not that deep with situations like this, it always baffles me because we have a trail of breadcrumbs to follow down the pipeline of history and see how these people navigate and, for us to know what we should and should not be doing. But some of our people still be living in this kumbaya bubble, wanting to ignore the facts, right? Ignore the warning signs and everything. Our soil, our resources. Yes, this guy may mean well. He may not want to come over and take over the identity, but we can't say what the rest of them might be thinking. And it's always best to be safe than sorry. Before one day we'll wake up and we'll find out that we are lying flat, butt naked on the floor with our heads bleeding because our head hits the floor. Why? Because we fell. We fell and we hit our heads on the floor. Don't ask me why we are butt naked. I don't know. Maybe they stole our clothes. Yeah, we know they be stealing everything. They stole the clothes. That's why we are butt naked. And while we on the floor with our heads bleeding, brain spilled out and everything, because they pulled the rugs right from underneath our feet. And we'll be there on the floor asking ourselves the exact same questions we're asking ourselves today about how did that happen in the past? How did we not see that coming? How could they do something like that? Oh my goodness, we trusted them. Oh no, this crying on the floor, looking stupid. Because we refuse to read the goddamn writing on the goddamn wall. It's always going to be better to be safe than sorry. That's all I'm saying. And for those who will be like, oh, that happened in the past, don't blame the present generation for what's happening in the past. Let's move on from that. Okay, fine. Let's move on from the past. Let's talk about the present. There's like a plethora of heinous acts that they are still spearheading, championing, perpetuating in 2025. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to use one example. Let's look at what they are doing over there in the Middle East. Look at what the Israelis are doing over there to the Palestinians. Those are people who went over there for safety, who the Palestinians opened their arms and their doors for them. Come, you are welcome. Stay here and heal from all of the ish that happened to your people over there in Europe, right? What Mustache Man did to you guys. We sympathize with you. We don't worry, you can come and feel at home here. What did they do after they felt at home? What did the mofos do after they felt at home? Now they're eradicating the people. They are literally, as we speak, ethnically cleansing them off the face of the earth. That's how they are thanking the Palestinians, the people who gave them a home when their own people rejected them, the people who created for them a safe space when their own people had nothing but havoc to wreak down on them. This is the kind of people we are dealing with. Steal, kill, and destroy. That's it. That's all they've ever done, and that's all it seemed that they would ever do. That's all it seemed they ever want to do. Nothing but that. So I don't understand why we have so many of these things to look at and learn from, but some of our people just want to close a blind eye. And when you point out these things, they make you a bad guy. You as an African talking about, no, we need to think about ourselves. We need to really analyze these things that we are doing and see the possibility of us making a wrong decision. How is this maybe going to bite us in the ass in the next 20 years? They don't want to talk about that. Everybody wants to be walking this life as if they are in a garden or something with rose painted glasses on. Abi, how did they talk again for English? Like I said, the writing is on the wall. And for goodness sakes, we can read. So can we effing read, man? Can we read and actually think about what we are reading? Can we ponder on it and make informed decisions for our good and for the good of our continent at large and the good for the future generations to come? Thank you. Now, when he said the thing about being Pan-African and how being Pan-African doesn't mean that, or it's not for just Black people, you can be Pan-African, it's about an ideology, right? If you are for the continent and for the continent prosperity, yes, you can, want great for the continent, even though you are not exactly an African, right? You can be a decent human being and want to see these people do good, right? But at the end of the day, even though, yes, you have like a Pan-African mindset and you want good for the continent and, the continent's people, that don't mean you are African. Like, for example, I can want good for Asians and Asia. As long as this good that they're going to get is not going to be at the expense of my people, right? But does that now mean that me wanting goods for Asians or Asia now makes me Asian? No, that's not how it works. Because in as much as we want to be nice and welcoming and do all of this stuff that we like to do, it's not every table that everybody can or just anybody can be welcome to. Being African is one of those tables.
I'm not European. I'm African.
No. You can be pro-black, pro-LGBT, pro-woman, pan-African, pro-global south, but you can't be African. And that's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It just is. It's just a fact. You can't change your ethnicity just because you want to. That doesn't mean you can't be an ally. That doesn't mean you can't stand in solidarity with the people that you see marginalized in the country that you happen to find yourself in as a child of a settler or as a settler yourself. You can be in support of all the things that you are still in support of, but you cannot claim an ethnicity that's not yours to claim. That is part of a very dangerous erasure that comes with colonialism.
And another thing, like him just even coming out and saying that he's African, who gave you permission? This is something I see sometimes in some of, white folks that, they claim to mean well, but sometimes you cannot help but see the the colonizer tactic still, even as they are trying to not be that. They cannot help but show the tendencies without realizing that that's what they are doing, right? Because this young man just came out and told us now that he's African. What we have to say don't matter. And that's what, his forefathers did. They came and forced stuff on us. They came and they're like, okay, now this is our land. You can't come here. You can't come here. We are this. You are that. He just came out and told us how he's African. Our opinions don't matter.
And this is why we need to be very careful when we platform people who fit the description of the oppressor, but are fighting for those on the marginalized. Not to say that they can't do that. Not to say that they shouldn't do that, because they should. But it also means that they themselves have work to do and a process to follow. The same thing happens when you see men speak on issues that affect women. Platform them very carefully, and for the most part, have men address other men if that's the work they want to do, because they might often find themselves saying very offensive things or saying things in ignorance when they are speaking to women, because they don't really understand the nuance of what women go through, because they can't. So, all this to say, don't contribute to the erasure of a people who are still fighting for integrity and for dignity in their land by claiming an ethnicity that is not yours to claim. You don't have to do that. It's not necessary. You can still fight. You can still be an ally. You can still show support without doing that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Okay, bye.
Everything Darren said
is an African unity. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to become part of Africa's direction, or you will be wiped out by history. Just like any settler who thought they could live on borrowed time. Pan-Africanism isn't just for black people. It's to anyone committed to the land, the people, and the future of Africa.
Where is Dr. Umar with that hospital? Where is he? Because that little speech right there, do you think someone like Ibrahim Traore would listen to that and say, yeah, he gets it? Did y'all even watch Sinners? Don't let them in. How do y'all think we got here in the first place? It was the sellouts, it was the allies, it was the ones who put a facade of neatness to fool you. Do you know how many black people say this on a daily basis? That it just took one in the thumb to say it for y'all to just giddy up, do as they say. Now you get it because Neanderthal said it. I will always stand on the fact that stupidity is a cost. I will just always stand on that. And a lot of y'all are in debt. The reason some of us are here today is because some of our ancestors couldn't be fooled. Like those fools in the comments. Some of us in jail. Asichazwa izinto ezinyakho.
And when you also put into consideration the fact that, like, the first group of people who told them that they cannot be African, they are not African, they shouldn't want to be African, wasn't even Africans. It was their ancestors. They did so much to make sure that there's like a very clear divide between the races, right? So, coming now in 2025, wanting to talk about how you are these people, I'm like, yes, I know you are not part of the people who did that in the past. You are a modern white man and whatnot, but please, let's just be who we are, beg. Make people are not they. I refuse for these lines to be blurred.
Genetics is a real thing. Blood memory is a real thing. All it takes is for him to use the same code in the book to fool you. And round two will just begin. Because what? History repeats itself. This is how they get you. And watch, we're going to have people in this comment section who are going to be like, oh, but if you that's why you must go there. Go there, when slave boy. Go do your thing. Like you always will. 1652 taught y'all nothing. Nothing. giving Junior Jan van Riebeck a pass to call himself African. Get the fuck out of my face.
How is it that when it comes to the other ethnicities, they know that just by living in Asia, it's not going to make you Asian. They know that just by living in the Americas, that's not going to make you a Native American. They know that just by living in Australia, that's not going to make you an Aboriginal of Australia or an indigenous Australian. They know this, but somehow when it comes to being African, the same logic don't apply. Is it that these people think we're pushovers or what? That they can just force anything on us and tell us anything, we're just going to accept it? Because, like, make it make sense. Why don't we see them doing this to the other groups of people, to the other ethnicities? Why not? Like, why is it only the African identity that they want to lash on so much? Why? Why? And then it's the fact that, like, we are even the ones they like the least, right? You know, there's a hierarchy of how, you know, they treat all the races of people. We are the ones that they like the least, but somehow they want our identity open to all of them. Just know. I don't have anything else to say. Well, that's why I'm going to be leaving this video, guys. Let me know down below in the comment section what your thoughts are. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be catching you in the next one. Bye.